Hello and welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. My name is Mitty Chang and I'm the president of this Rotary Club. Every week we bring to you a program about education, innovation, technology, and humanitarian service. And this week I'm excited to bring you a program about recycling and about home building. But before we introduce our guest speaker, I'd like to introduce some of our members and guests on the call. So in no particular order other than what I see on my screen, right underneath me is Alan. Alan, if you could go ahead and wave. Alan Thompson is our club treasurer, and he's also a builder and contractor himself, and he's based out of Bakersfield, California. And next to Alan, we have Elsa. Elsa is one of our guests, and she's been regularly attending our live recordings, but also is a Rotary actor from Oklahoma. She is currently studying at university and currently studying abroad right now, and she's actually in France right now for a few months. Thanks for joining us, Elsa. And underneath Elsa, we have Stephen Shags Chagrin. And so Shags is our membership chair, and Shags is a money coach based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And he also is an excellent chef. And I'd like to have the honor of introducing to you our wonderful speaker this week. His name is Dan Phillips. Dan is a master builder and an enthusiast himself. He's the founder and builder of Phoenix Commotion, and he's been a trained architect from Huntsville, Texas. And I noticed on the call we have joining us Ian. Hi, Ian.
Hello.
I'm going to go ahead and mute your audio, Ian, really quick, if you don't mind. All right, terrific. Welcome, Ian. And I believe, Dan, you can also do a quick introduction for Ian's behalf once you get started. But Dan is, once again, founder and builder of Phoenix Commotion and a trained architect from Huntsville, Texas. When Dan was a child, he saw his parents suffer through the Great Depression years, and he quickly learned to value what he had. When he was 14 years old, he built a bicycle completely out of scrap materials collected at a nearby dump site. And after that first bike, he never looked back to build these amazing and wonderful and enchanting homes that he's going to be showing to us today. And I don't want to reveal too much about it, but oftentimes these homes are made up of over 75% recycled materials. So we're very excited to have you speak to our Rotary Club, Dan. Dan, welcome, and please take it away from here.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my son. He just polished off a career as an F-16 pilot and is now a pilot for Delta, and decided he'd weigh in on the talk today. Shall I go ahead and start my PowerPoint now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. The main mission of the Phoenix Commotion, and there is our website there at the bottom of the screen, is to keep stuff out of the landfill. We are just being way too wasteful, and we're beginning to denude the planet, and we're kind of like mold on cheese. Before long, we'll have to get a new plant. So I've got a few pictures of homes that I've done, and I'll talk about them a little bit, and then I'll let them continue to scroll as I continue to speak. This is the first house I built, a little Victorian house, and all these little buttons here, those are hickory nuts, and then a double front door here with a 3-light transom and eyebrow windows. That's an architectural antique that was going to the landfill. You can see the hickory nuts here and stick and ball fretwork, and believe it or not, the numbers are gold leaf, and that was also salvage. Then you can't have a Victorian house without a turret. And so I have a turret on it, a little Rapunzel window right there. And then the whole turret is made out of 2x4s, 9 inches long, cut at an angle to yield the radius, and that's the staircase. The shingles up there are egg and dart shingles. Got 50 squares of those for $90. And if you buy them new, they're $200 a square. These are hickory nuts here on the corbels. This larger corbel here, those larger buttons, those are chicken eggs. And of course, first you have breakfast, and then you fill the shell full of a resin, paint it, nail it up, and you have an architectural button in a fraction of the time that it would take to search it out in the marketplace. I built a bathtub. I started with a ring on the floor right there, upside down, and screwed and nailed and glued scrap Western red cedar 2x4 together into a flat, then flipped it over, and then did the profiles on each end here. Then 2 coats of fiberglass with cloth and 2 coats of bathtub paint. And it's the most comfortable tub I've ever sat in. It's a 2-person tub. I mean, after all, a bathtub isn't just a question of hygiene, but there's also a possibility of recreation as well. Then this faucet here is a piece of bois d'arc, which is a local wood. There's no pipe in there, and it looks a little phallic, but after all, it's a bathroom. Then this is looking up into the turret. If you notice there are lumps and bulges and sags and pokes, and if that ruins your day, then you shouldn't live in this house. This is looking up into the turret. I got this staircase for $20, including delivery to my lot. I can't even buy material for 1 stair tread for $20. And if you'll notice, every one of the balusters is dovetailed into the stair treads there. You don't see that anymore. Then I built a house that looks like a Budweiser, or that was based on a Budweiser can. Doesn't look like a Budweiser can, but the design takeoffs are absolutely unmistakable. We have the barley hops design worked up into the cornice work here. Then this dental work comes directly off the can. It's red, white, blue, and silver. And in Texas, it's illegal to build a recycled house unless you have some reference to Texas. So we have a Texas star up there. The front porch railing comes directly off the can. Then there's a little design on a Budweiser can, and I just put a can of beer on a copier and kept enlarging it until I got the size I wanted, and then cut those designs out and then put them underneath the soffit there. And this is the last of the egg and dart shingles. Then the downstairs bathroom is supposed to simulate a glass of beer. So we have bubbles going up, and then lumpy tiles that simulate the suds. Where do you get lumpy tiles? Well, you don't, actually. But I get a lot of toilets. And so if you just dispatch your toilet with a hammer, you get lumpy tiles. So that's what those are up there. I've got a beer tap for a faucet. And right over here on the left, I've got a long neck beer bottle, which is a toilet paper holder right over there. Then this is the upstairs bathroom. All this is imported travertine marble from Tuscany. Got it directly out of a dumpster. This light here is the same light that is in every middle-class house in America. And it's in the foyer. And if you put it in the foyer, then folks go, oh, you're trying to be like those guys, and you didn't quite make it, did you? So you don't put it in the foyer. You put it in the bathroom or a closet. It's a pretty light, but you breathe new life into it when you rattle the context just a little bit. This is a house built with wood from a bois d'arc tree, bois d'arc. It grows locally here. I don't believe it grows in California. But the wood is very hard. Termites don't eat the wood, and it doesn't rot. But the reason it's not commercially exploited is it has this very undisciplined way of growing. It just grows all over the place. Then I'll let these continue to scroll as I continue to talk. In order to really understand how I'm able to do what I do, you need to understand the causes of waste in the building industry, which is colossal. It's the only industry that has not developed an aftermarket strategy for the byproduct of its industry. We have a few little attempts at recycling, habitat restores, and some salvage yards, but by and large, the building industry builds new. And probably the first cause of waste is buried in our DNA somewhere, in that human beings have a need for maintaining consistency of the apperceptive mass, consistency of our data banks. And so if I show you an object that you've never seen before, here we go. Here's an object. You haven't seen this before. You go, oh, I know what that is. That's his cell phone. But you haven't seen this one before. So what you're doing is sizing up the structural features, going through your data banks and going, that's a cell phone. But if I took a bite out of it, you go, wait a second. That's not a cell phone. That's one of those new edible cell phones. And you have to start a new category right between edible and cell phones. That's how we learn, through repetition. So we translate that to the building industry. If I have a wall of window panes and one is cracked, we go, oh dear, that's cracked. Let's take it out, throw it away so nobody can use it, because after all, that's what you do with a cracked window. You throw it away. Never mind that it doesn't affect our lives at all, not in the slightest. It only if we took a small hammer and we added cracks to all the other windows, then we have a pattern. Because Gestalt psychology emphasizes recognition of pattern over parts that comprise a pattern. Now that's important. That creates mountains of waste. If something has a blemish or is a little bit off or not quite right, it goes to the landfill or the dumpster. The other important point to be made here, repetition creates pattern. If I have 100 of these and 100 of those, I have the possibility of a pattern. It doesn't make any difference what these and those are. I have the possibility of a pattern. So it can be bottle caps, hickory nuts, broken glass, shards of tile. It doesn't make any difference. So that widens the field of free materials. All I have to do is find enough of any one thing, and I have some building materials. That's a very important concept in the Phoenix Commotion. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote a book in 1885 titled The Birth of Tragedy. And in there, he said that cultures tend to swing between one of two perspectives. On the one hand, we have an Apollonian perspective, which was named after the Greek god Apollo, which is intellectualized and absolutely pre-calculated and perfect. On the other end of the spectrum, we have a Dionysian perspective, which is more given to the passions and intuition and tolerant of organic texture and human gesture. So, for instance, the way the Apollonian personality hangs a picture is they will get out a transit and a laser level and a micrometer. Okay, honey, thousandth of an inch to the left, right there. That's where we want the picture, predicated on plumb level, square-centered, and symmetrical. The Dionysian personality takes the picture and goes, throws it up there. Yeah, looks good. That's the difference. On the one hand, we're accessing a predetermined model that is blueprints. On the other hand, we are accessing deeper sensibilities and human instincts and making sure that it feels right. Builders can't do that. Architects can't do that. They have to pre-think every decision they make and render it into a complicated symbol system so that others can read it. A change order in the world of an architect takes 6 hours, 6 days, 6 weeks, maybe 6 months, because you have to go through all the players in the process. In the world of Dan, a change order takes about 6 seconds. I think I'd like to have a window right there. Window, that's easy. And so I have a great deal of freedom. But that exacerbates this problem of waste. Every builder plans in 10% extra materials to account for Mismatches, culls, mistakes, that sort of thing. If there are no mismatches, culls, or mistakes, what is a new homeowner going to do with 8 joints of rebar, reinforcement bar? Well, it goes to the dumpster. And so that creates mountains of waste. Then arguably, the Industrial Revolution had its roots in the Renaissance with the advent of humanism. Then, as we know it, then along came the French Revolution. That gave it a little bump start. In the middle of the 19th century, it was in full flower. And we were making doomaflogies and gizmos and contraptions and machines that would do anything that up to that point had to be done by hand. Wow, how did you get 20 of those in the time that I can only do one? Oh, you've got a machine. On the heels of that came standard materials, then attendant tool gadgetry to work the standard materials. On the heels of that is standardized designs and market-driven designs. That's why all our houses look pretty much the same. They are all geometrical, all pretty much like cheese sandwiches. This might have bologna, that might have lettuce, oh, that has mustard, but they're all pretty much processed cheese sandwiches because they're generated by the marketplace in standardized materials. If something isn't standard, it goes to the landfill. I feature blemish. I feature all the warped wood. I love the nail holes. I love the non-standard stuff. And you can't have building codes unless you have standard materials and standard strategies. But every building code has a provision that alternative materials and strategies are allowable provided you fulfill the intent of the code, which is protecting the public safety and health only. That's the only thing building codes do. Well, that's easy. And so I've got to pass muster with all my inspections. And if I don't, the building inspectors have a ready suggestion for how I can make a correction, because I don't want to do anything that's not safe. Then the next thing that creates gobs of waste is the notion that labor is disproportionately more expensive than materials, which is, of course, a myth. I'll tell you a story. A guy on my crew, Jim, told us, I said, Jim, I've got a job lined up for you. Well, you've got enough training now. You're going to be foreman on a framing crew. Dan, I just don't think I can do that. Yeah, Jim, you can do that. You're good enough now. Oh, Dan, I just thought, oh. So we hired him. There he is in the trash heap with a tape measure looking for header material, which is the board that goes over a door. And the superintendent walked up and he said, tell us, what are you doing? Oh, just getting some header material. He said, no, I'm not paying you to go through the trash. Go get another one and get back to work. And he had the wherewithal to say, he said, you know, if you were paying me $300 an hour, I can see how you might say that. But right now, I'm saving you $5 a minute. Do the math. Good call, tell us. From now on, you guys hit this pile first. Then all the players in the building industry think this way. From the architects to the contractors, P&Z, engineers, all the licensed vendors, all the construction worker bees, they all think this way. So instead of pulling a nail, it goes to the dumpster. That exacerbates this whole issue of waste. Then here come the marketeers and the advertisers. Oh boy, they are good. They can sell you something you didn't know you needed. And that's what happens in the building industry as well. My, oh my. And oh ho, you want a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Gosh, yeah, that's what I want. But I only need 1-bedroom, 1-bath. But oh my Lord, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's what sells. What if you had to sell it? This is a major investment. Gosh, you need to go get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I'm going to start this again here. There we go. Then a man named Jean-Paul Sartre wrote a book titled Being and Nothingness. And it's a pretty quick read. You can snap through it in maybe 2 years if you read 8 hours a day with a good breakfast. He's the guy that starts a sentence on page 24 and does not give you a verb until page 48. Jean-Paul Sartre. Anyway, he said that human beings act differently when they know they're alone than when somebody else is around. So if I'm eating spaghetti and I know I'm alone, I can eat like a backhoe. I can wipe my mouth on my sleeve, chew with my mouth open, make little noises, scratch wherever I want. But as soon as you come in, ooh, little spaghetti sauce there, tidy up there, mouth closed, no scratching, no noises. And what I'm doing is fulfilling your expectation for how I should behave. I'm fulfilling your expectation for how I should lead my life. I was leading my life the way I wanted to before you barged in. But as soon as you come in, I tidy up. Well, that happens in the building industry as well. We have expectations for how our houses should look and how we should build. And so, let's see, this isn't going. Oh, well, I'll get it started again. Anyway, I'll bet all of your shoes match. Anybody wearing mismatching shoes today? Those expectations are everywhere. My, oh my. And we get into lockstep with those things. And expectations are a good thing. It provides for an ordered society. That's a good thing. But we need to be on our guard because in a Phoenix Commotion house, no carpet, no vinyl, no sheetrock, no dishwasher, no trash compactor, no garbage disposer. My feeling is if you don't have the discipline to wash your own dishes, maybe you don't deserve dishes. And so you don't get that. But you get an energy efficient, code compliant house that is safe and hazard free and healthy. And it's laughably below market rates and quite likely more interesting than anything the marketplace could provide. Then there's this notion of gregariousness. Human beings are gregarious. Wildebeests are gregarious, lions are gregarious, but wildebeests don't hang with the lions because lions eat wildebeests. So gregariousness means we hang with the people that are most like us. And if we want to be identified with that group, we do what they do. And so if I want to be identified with the beautiful people, I do what they do. So I have this gigantic house so people will think that I'm one of the beautiful people. And I rattle around in that house and that melts the planet down further. So what we can all do is go off by ourselves and ponder a little bit and find out who we really are and access deeper sensibilities and our instincts and make our own decisions and not be muscled into them by the culture. And that is thrilling indeed. Thank you. Questions?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. A slight pause there. Dan, so we're going to open the floor up to questions from the audience. So if you guys have a question, you can just wave your hand at me. There's also actually a raise hand button at the bottom of this video conferencing tool, or you can type something in the chat and I'll be sure to call upon you. Dan, I'm going to start this off. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your journey to creating Phoenix Commotion and really a little bit more about your history as an architect and also, when you actually decided on creating this this wonderful Phoenix Commotion company?
Well, first of all, let me correct you. I'm not really an architect. Often people call me an architect, but if I claim that, that would be academic fraud. I'm not. The model is called design build, so I'm a designer builder. And I spent the better part of my life as a dancer, as a modern dancer, but I've always wanted to be a builder, and everybody wants to be a builder. You throw a sheet over the dining table and make a fort, and as a child, you build a tree house and it falls down, but you made one. And so I'd always wanted to be a builder, and then I'd always suspected that you could build an entire house out of what went into the landfill, and sure enough, it's true. The average landfill waste stream is 10 to 40% of usable building material. And it strikes me as a little bit piggy when we have these little families that would do anything to own a home to be throwing away that much usable material. Well, 15 years ago, I thought, well, gosh, if I'm going to be a builder, oh boy, well, I better get busy. So now I'm a builder.
Okay, fair enough. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about how much an average house that you build costs. I know it's recycled materials, and I don't know whether or not that's something that you actually do reveal, but it'd be interesting to find out.
These houses are 75 to 85% free material. I have a low-cost labor force. They only get minimum wage, but they get a fire hose of information. So when they have enough skill, I push them out the door to a higher paying job and say, next. The way you measure how much a house costs is by square footage. And I'm building for between $30 and $50 a square foot. I don't hesitate to buy new. I just rarely have to. Some things I always buy new. Wire for the electrical, pipe for the plumbing, because that degrades with UV rays. And these days, you use PEX, and you don't get that salvage so much now. I buy the highest quality energy efficient heat pump that I can get, always brand new. So some things I buy new, but most of the time I don't have to buy.
Terrific. Thanks for answering that. Alan, do you have a question?
Dan, I was looking at a lot of the features in your houses. They look very labor intensive, like a bottle cap floor or a license plate roof. They just look like they're just full of labor. So these houses are really custom. I mean, I've seen custom houses before, but these are incredibly custom. They do take a lot of time to build, don't they?
You're exactly right. The reason I'm in the marketplace. I'm in the for-profit sector. I'm not a nonprofit, and I've never been in the red. I've always been in the black. Recycled materials take more time, but 75 to 85% of the materials are free, and I've got a low-cost labor force, $7.25 an hour. In Texas, you can live on $7.25 an hour. California, no way. New York, no way. In Texas, you got to ride a bike, you got to have a roommate, but you can make ends meet. So yes, it does take more time, but I come out, and I could not do this without an educational component. That's key to the whole model.
Terrific. Thanks for answering that.
Tell us a little bit about Smithers Park. I'm interested in Smithers.
One other thing that goes along with that last question, I get lots of volunteers. People just want to, they love the idea and they want to somehow participate. So I get loads of volunteers. Now, Smithers Park, I was asked by the Orange Show Foundation for Visionary Art in Houston, which sponsors the Art Car Parade of Houston. I'm 60 miles north of Houston, but they asked me to design a park that would be folk art friendly. So I was allowed to dream my wildest dreams and then let reality beat us back into feasibility. There was going to be an amphitheater and long sweep swings and a tunnel and all kinds of things. Well, as it turns out, we have some of those things, but excuse me, my job is to herd 100 cats through this concept. And it's an art park and pretty amazing, really amazing as a park. I don't have any pictures of that offhand. I can search some out, but you could Google Smither Park and those images will come up.
Yeah, and it's fixing to have a fundraiser, isn't it? It's fixing to complete and
well, the idea, we've been fundraising for 6 years because it's basically cost about $1.5 million just with infrastructure. And in Houston, I'm not allowed to just throw anything together. We've got to have engineers in the mix, project managers, then architects and so forth to get through the infrastructure of Houston. So all that cost a good bit of money, and we're always on the lookout for more bucks.
Well, I thought it was pretty interesting. The Smither Park project is just east of the University of Houston in the city of Houston. It's a small little park, but I think eclectic is an understatement.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely an understatement.
So,
and embedded in the whole park are puzzles. I happen to have a syndicate doing logic puzzles at one time in my life. And so I'm no stranger to confounding people with puzzles. So embedded in all the art are puzzles. So the idea is that you buy a copy of the puzzle for $5. That allows you to submit one solution. And then you go to the park and find the answer to that puzzle, and you submit a solution. And if it's not right, then you have to buy another one. And so each cycle is 3 months. And then if you win, you get $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. And there are a lot of puzzle nerds out there. So we've got to confound them. That'll be kind of fun.
Nice. Dan, one question for you. Where do you go to find inspiration?
Actually, the materials themselves give me inspiration. If you have a whole bag of bottle caps, you think, I wonder if I could do a floor. And then you try it this way, it fails. You try it this way, it fails. That way, oh, wait, here's how it'll work. And then you make it work. Wine corks, what can I do with wine corks? If you price cork floors in Architectural Digest, get your checkbook ready. It's pricey indeed, and nowhere even close to how interesting a wine cork floor is. You get bragging rights. You can say, that's my imported Mediterranean oak floor. Or you can say, see that cork there? That's a Chateau Petrus 1953. We had that with chili dogs, stuff like that.
Are you in your own house right now, Dan?
Yes.
It looks rather plain compared to your homes.
Well, actually, if you scanned around this office, I'd probably have to hide. It's just, but we bought this house 40 years ago, back before we knew better. It's a standard custom house. It has drywall in it. I hate it. It's larger than we need, but we're stuck with it. We've remodeled it over and over and over again. And we would very happily build our own recycled house, but we don't have time.
Yep.
Fair enough. Well,
shoe size 8.5, 71 years old.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time here. And Ian, Elsa, did either of you have any questions or comments you want to make before we turn it over for the ending? You might have to unmute yourself, though. If you can hear me, you can unmute Ian. There you go.
I get to hear my father speak, and I always enjoy it. But I always have questions that come up in my mind too. One this time was how important and how transferable do you think the understanding of design and art is for this type of project? Can other people who don't necessarily do this day in, day out adopt your model for themselves or for their family or something like that?
It's extremely important to understand principles of design and art. And what most people don't know is everybody already understands that. We already understand that. The reason we don't do it, is we're too intimidated. So if I put you in a room full of trash and I say, I want a design before you get dinner tonight, you'd come up with a design. And I want the design to look like an arrow. I want it to look like a house. I want it to look like a circle or a star. You could do it. Most folks don't even try because that's not the way it's done. In the building industry has us all buffaloed into thinking, oh, you can't possibly build your own house. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, if you understand this, and you understand that water runs downhill, you've got it pretty well licked. The more you ask a wall to do, the more complicated it becomes. The larger you make it, the longer it takes. So don't do that. Build small. And so if you're building in a jurisdiction, it must be inspected. But inspectors, often enough in a small town, will help you. So with a little bit of a tutorial, you can do this. And those principles of art and design are buried in everyone. Repetition creates pattern. We understand every event in the world, every visual event and every kinetic event has a signature rhythm that we feel. We can embed those rhythms in the repetition. That's what gives it all this marvelous design and so forth. Unity, contrast, scale, those are things that everybody understands. They just have to trust their instincts and sensibilities. And most people don't have the nerve. They're afraid to fail. That was a good question. Any other questions?
Terrific. Thanks so much, Dan, for speaking to us. Our guest this week, again, has been Dan Phillips of Phoenix Commotion. Dan, at this time, we're going to turn it to you for some closing statements, and then I'll wrap up the meeting.
Okay. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed this. And Ian, I don't know if you're aware, Elsa is in France. Shags, Mitty is in Australia. Alan is, he's in California. This is all over the world. And I'm in Huntsville, Texas. And you're in Salt Lake City.
I'm in California.
You're in California. Okay. My son is in Salt Lake City. So, my oh my, thank you very much. Thank you for thinking of me. It's really important. Go to my website and look at more of the pictures. I've got some articles on there. And it's really important to keep this on your radar. Nobody's going to change midstream. As Jim Hightower said, you always need to go against the flow, go upstream, go against the stream. After all, a dead fish can go with the flow. And that's an important remark to make. We can all just have houses that look like cheese sandwiches, or we can add a little whimsy to our lives. And I think that's important. A life without whimsy is a non-life. Thank you for including me, and Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Dan. Once again, our guest has been Dan Phillips. His website to Phoenix Commotion will be available underneath this video, as well as some other relevant links. And we hope to have you make a comment and reply back at the bottom of this meeting and just let us know what you thought, or maybe ask Dan any questions you might have. And we hope to see you next week. Thanks for joining us this week. Take care now. Bye, everyone.